A woman wearing a designer Chanel suit with 5 different charity pins on her lapel walks into Judge Judy's courtroom as though she's attending a philanthropic gala instead of a legal proceeding. The Children's Hope Foundation badge reflects the studio lights perfectly. A custom sash reading Philanthropist of the year 2023 drapes across her torso. Within moments of speaking, she makes a remark so breathtakingly condescending about people who don't understand real charity work that even Bailiff Bird's expression shifts to instant dislike. What follows isn't just a courtroom verdict. It is the complete dismantling of an A-tier facade, a demonstration of why fake compassion is worse than none. Why exploiting sick children for status is one of the most despicable forms of fraud. And why some deceptions are so offensive they demand public exposure, before revealing how Judge Judy systematically dismantles this woman's fraudulent empire. The narrator urges viewers to subscribe, emphasizing that this story involving deception, exposure, and the ruthless exploitation of human kindness shows exactly why Judge Judy never lets liars escape her courtroom. Viewers are asked to comment if they believe fake charity work is among the lowest forms of deception. By the end, they'll understand why Judge Judy's investigation and takedown of Rachel Thornbridge became a memorable moment in courtroom television. Then comes the question, meant to haunt anyone who performs goodness rather than practicing it. When did society start rewarding people for looking charitable instead of being charitable? When did social media posts with sick children in the background start counting as humanitarian work? When did narcissists get away with posing as Mother Teresa while pocketing donations meant for cancer research? What happens in Judge Judy's courtroom proves that exploiting kindness isn't just morally bankrupt, it's criminal. And the matter is personal to Judge Judy. In ways the defendant never anticipated, the courtroom hums with its usual pre-session energy. Bailiff Bird leans toward Judge Judy's bench and quietly mentions that the plaintiff has been insufferable in the waiting area, name-dropping charities to everyone and telling multiple people she's basically Mother Teresa with better legal representation. A production assistant adds that she spent 20 minutes repositioning her charity pins to ensure they would be visible on camera. Judge Judy raises an eyebrow, the expression that signals someone is about to have a bad day. She reviews the case file. Rachel Thornbridge versus Marcus Wellington. A dispute over $15,000 for an alleged breach of contract related to a charity event. Rachel is listed as CEO and founder of the Rachel Thornbridge Foundation for Children's Hope. Judy makes a small notation, a reminder to investigate something that already seems suspicious. The bailiff calls the case. All rise for Judge Judith Scheinlin. Rachel Thornbridge enters the courtroom and her performance begins immediately. She glides rather than walks. Her Chanel suit likely costs thousands. The pearls at her neck are real. Her leather portfolio is embossed with gold letters. RTF, Rachel Thornbridge Foundation. But it's the accessories that reveal the real story. 5 charity pins arranged with precision on her lapel. Children's Hope Foundation, Cancer Research Alliance, Education for All Initiative, Youth Mentorship Coalition, and Global Health Partnership. A sash draped across her body declares her self-appointed status as Philanthropist of the Year. Her smile is polished and sympathetic, the expression of someone who has spent years perfecting the appearance of compassionate concern. She takes her place and immediately presses both hands over her heart in a gesture meant to convey humble sincerity, a display that makes Bailiff Bird openly roll his eyes. Judge Judy glances up from the case file, her expression already laced with doubt. Miss Thornbridge, you're suing Mr. Wellington for $15,000. Is that correct? Rachel replies with a voice dripping in performative humility, each word crafted for emotional effect. Yes, Your Honor. Though I want to clarify that this is not about the money for me personally. I've dedicated my entire adult life to helping those who cannot help themselves. This case is about principle. It's about protecting the integrity of charitable work and ensuring that vulnerable children aren't harmed by one man's incompetence and betrayal. Judge Judy's pen halts mid-sentence. Her eyes narrow, locking onto Rachel with the precision of a predator zeroing in on prey. The courtroom senses the shift. Something has set off Judge Judy's fraud alarms. And Rachel Thornbridge has no idea she's stepped into a trap 8 years in the making. The evidence is ready, and Judge Judy is moments away from delivering a masterclass on dismantling fake philanthropists on national television. Judge Judy leans back slightly, giving Rachel just enough room to expose herself further. Tell me about this charity event, Miss Thornbridge. What exactly was Mr. Wellington hired to do? Rachel's face lights up with rehearsed enthusiasm, the kind of expression people wear when their favorite subject themselves is disguised as charity. Your Honor, I organized a major fundraising gala for children with cancer. It's something I do regularly as part of my foundation's mission. We raised $80,000 that night for pediatric cancer research. $80,000 that will save children's lives, Rachel continues. But Mr. Wellington, whom I hired as the event coordinator for $15,000, failed to deliver on multiple critical promises. He embarrassed me in front of major donors, corporate sponsors, and community leaders. His incompetence jeopardized everything I've built over 8 years of tireless charitable work. Judge Judy's expression stays neutral, but her fingers tap once against the bench, a signal familiar to anyone who regularly watches her show. Danger ahead. What specifically did Mr. Wellington fail to deliver, Miss Thornbridge? Rachel subtly shifts her stance, adjusting the sash across her torso to ensure it remains visible to the cameras. Your Honor, with all due respect, coordinating high-stakes charity events requires a level of sophistication and understanding that, well, not everyone has. Managing wealthy donors, corporate sponsors, and media attention demands someone who understands the nuances of philanthropic culture. Mr. Wellington simply lacked the experience and refinement necessary for an event of this size. The condescension in her tone is unmistakable, and she has effectively suggested that even Judge Judy might not grasp the complexity of her work. Several audience members exchange looks. Bailiff Byrd crosses his arms. Judge Judy's voice remains calm, almost pleasant. I see. And you understand this pressure, Miss Thornbridge? You have the sophistication and refinement. Rachel has no idea she's stepping directly into a trap. Oh, absolutely, Your Honor. I've been doing this for 8 years. My foundation is my entire life. I've sacrificed my personal life, my free time, potential career opportunities in the corporate world. Everything I do is for these children. I carry their faces with me every day. When you've devoted yourself to philanthropy at this level, you develop an understanding of what true charity requires. Judge Judy turns to the defendant. Mr. Wellington, you're dressed simply khakis and a button-down shirt. You look anxious, uncomfortable, like someone who didn't expect to be on national television being accused of incompetence. Tell me your side. Marcus Wellington clears his throat, his voice quiet but steady. Your Honor, I did exactly what Miss Thornbridge hired me to do. Marcus begins. Every task in the contract was completed on time and within budget. I booked the venue she requested. I arranged catering for 50 people, which is the number she instructed. I hired the DJ and photographer she approved. I sent the invitations to the guest list she provided. Everything was executed exactly as agreed. He takes a breath. But when I started asking basic questions about where the charity money was going, and when I requested documentation about the foundation's registration status so I could correctly handle tax receipts, Miss Thornbridge immediately fired me and refused to pay the $15,000 she owed. Rachel's hand shoots up as her voice climbs indignantly. That is absolutely false. How dare he question my charitable work? Your Honor, I've dedicated my entire adult life to helping children. I do not owe financial explanations to a hired contractor who is brought on to coordinate an event, not interrogate me like some kind of investigator. That kind of overstepping is exactly why I terminated him. Judge Judy's voice slices cleanly through Rachel's outburst. Actually, Miss Thornbridge, you may have to justify quite a few things to me. Sit down and stay quiet until I ask you another question. Marcus continues, encouraged by Judge Judy's tone. Your Honor, I brought the contract and all related documents. He opens a folder. This shows I was hired for $15,000. Here are the email confirmations for the venue, the catering invoices, the DJ contract, the photographer's receipt. Everything was completed exactly as she requested. I manage so many different projects and initiatives that I don't have every administrative detail memorized. Rachel insists. Judge Judy's voice drops into that quiet, lethal tone that always signals impending disaster. You don't know your own charity's registration number. It's a foundation you claim to have run for 8 years. Rachel's hands tighten around the podium, her knuckles paling. Your Honor, with respect, I focus on the actual charitable work, the fundraising, donor relationships, the children we serve. The administrative paperwork is handled by my team. It's not unreasonable that I don't have a registration number memorized when I'm overseeing multiple initiatives at once. Judge Judy's expression remains steady, but there's a subtle shift in her posture. She lifts a folder from her desk, much thicker than the case file that sat there earlier. Miss Thornbridge, she says, I took the liberty of doing some research before this case. Before you walked into my courtroom wearing your costume, your jewelry, your pins, and that homemade sash, I made a few calls. I contacted the IRS. I contacted the State Charity Registration Board. I contacted several of the organizations whose names you're wearing on your chest right now. Would you like to know what I found? The color drains from Rachel's face. She tries to stay composed, but her voice trembles. Your Honor, I'm sure there are reasonable explanations for any discrepancies you encountered. Charity registration can be complex. There are administrative delays, paperwork timelines. Judge Judy slowly opens the folder, letting the silence deepen. The Rachel Thornbridge Foundation for Children's Hope does not exist as a registered 501(c)(3) charitable organization. In fact, it doesn't exist in any official capacity. No business license, no tax identification number, no corporate filings, no nonprofit status, nothing. Your foundation is entirely, completely, 100% fictional. Rachel's mouth falls open, speechless. The audience gasps. Marcus Wellington's eyes widen in vindication. Your Honor, there must be a mistake, Rachel stammers. Maybe the paperwork is still processing or filed under a different name. Or there's been some administrative error. Judge Judy raises a hand to silence her. I don't make mistakes, Miss Thornbridge. I had 3 different people verify the information independently. Your charity doesn't exist because you never created it. You've been pretending to run a foundation for 8 years without ever actually registering one, Judge Judy says. She turns to the next page in her folder. Now, let's discuss this event that supposedly raised $80,000 for children's cancer research. According to the venue receipts Mr. Wellington supplied, your event had exactly 47 attendees. You charged $150 per ticket. Let me do the math for you, Miss Thornbridge. She pauses. 47 people at $150 each equals $7,050 in total ticket sales, not $80,000. $7,050. You inflated the amount by more than $70,000. Rachel's response rushes out, thin and panicked. Your Honor, there were additional donations, corporate sponsors, matching grants from local businesses. Ticket sales were only one revenue stream. Judge Judy leans forward, her tone cutting. Show me the receipts. Show me even one piece of documentation for these so-called corporate donations. Rachel's hands lift helplessly. I don't have them with me, Your Honor. They're in my office, in the Foundation's financial files. This was meant to be a simple contract dispute. I didn't realize I needed to bring full financial records. Judge Judy's voice sharpens, her irritation finally showing. You don't have them because they don't exist. But let's continue. I contacted the Children's Cancer Research Foundation, the real charity you claim received the money you raised, the legitimate organization that actually does the work you pretend to do. Would you like to know what they told me? Rachel's trembling is now visible, though she tries to hide it. They said there must be a mistake with their records, she murmurs. Judge Judy's tone turns glacial. They said they have never received a single dollar from you or your imaginary foundation. No donation, no correspondence, no contact. Nothing. In fact, Miss Thornbridge, they had never even heard your name before I called them yesterday. Rachel tries a different tactic, her voice softening into a plea. Your Honor, perhaps there was confusion about which organization received the funds. There are so many children's cancer charities. Maybe I donated to another one and simply misspoke. It's been months since the event. Judge Judy gestures at the pins on Rachel's lapel. Those pins you're wearing like military decorations. The Children's Hope Foundation badge. Explain your work with that organization. Rachel can barely muster a whisper. I'm a board member. I serve on their advisory council. Now Judge Judy shakes her head slowly. Oh, Miss Thornbridge. You're not? She pauses. I called them too. They told me you attended exactly one fundraiser 3 years ago as a paying guest. You are not a board member. You have never been a board member. You are not on any advisory council. You bought a ticket to their gala once, probably took a few photos, and then spent 3 years claiming to be part of their organization. Rachel's carefully crafted persona is collapsing right in front of everyone. But Your Honor, she protests weakly. It was an honorary position, more of an informal relationship. Judge Judy's tone becomes razor sharp. There is no such thing as an informal board membership, Miss Thornbridge. You either serve on a board or you don't. You are lying. She gestures toward the sash draped across Rachel's torso. Now, let's discuss that lovely sash you're wearing. Philanthropist of the Year 2023. That's quite an accolade. Which organization presented you with this award? Rachel's mouth moves, but barely any words come out. It was a small local organization recognizing community service. Judge Judy waits, letting the silence stretch to the breaking point. What organization, Miss Thornbridge? Say the name. Rachel can't. Her silence speaks louder than anything she could say. Judge Judy nods slowly, her expression a combination of disgust and final confirmation. You can't name it because it doesn't exist. You bought that sash yourself, didn't you? Or had it custom-made somewhere? You invented an award and presented it to yourself because no legitimate charity would ever honor someone like you. Rachel's impeccable makeup can't hide the fact that she's coming apart. Her voice fractures. Your Honor, you're taking everything out of context. The sash was symbolic, representing the work I do, the lives I've touched. Judge. Judy slams her hand on the bench, the sound cracking through the courtroom. Symbolic? You wore fake credentials into my courtroom as if they were real accomplishments. You stood here lecturing me about sophisticated philanthropy while wearing props from your own fantasy. She leans forward. Now let's talk about what's real, Miss Thornbridge. Let's talk about actual numbers instead of your delusions. Judge Judy picks up a calculator along with the receipts Marcus Wellington provided. Your event brought in $7,050 from ticket sales. Venue rental was $2,000. Catering for 47 people cost $2,500. DJ and entertainment were $800. Photography and printing cost $400. Mr. Wellington's coordination fee, which you refused to pay, was $15,000. She begins adding each expense. Total expenses, $20,700. Total collected, $7,050. Judge Judy looks up. Miss Thornbridge, you didn't raise money for charity. You lost $13,650 on this event. Judge Judy says, you literally went into debt, throwing yourself a party and calling it philanthropy. Rachel's voice rises, desperation spilling through. Your Honor, there were other revenue streams. You're not accounting for silent auction items, raffle tickets, donation pledges that came in after the event. Judge Judy leans back, arms crossed. Show me. Show me one receipt, one check, one bank deposit, one shred of evidence that even a single additional dollar went to any charity anywhere. Rachel's hands tremble as she opens her leather portfolio. Rifling through papers that clearly contain nothing relevant, the silence drags on for 15 painful seconds. I don't have those specific documents with me today, she finally says. Judge Judy's voice turns dangerously soft. You don't have them because they don't exist. You weren't raising money for sick children. You were raising money to throw yourself an extravagant party so you could cosplay as a humanitarian. She continues, unrelenting. You charged people $150 per ticket by claiming it was for cancer research, then spent every penny on food and entertainment so you could feel important for one night. Judge Judy flips open another section of her thick folder, and Rachel flinches. But let's go further, Miss Thornbridge. This wasn't your first fraudulent charity event, was it? I found 3 other people you've sued in the past 2 years, a caterer in 2022, a graphic designer in 2023, and a venue coordinator 6 months ago. Each one hired for one of your fake charity events. Each one began asking questions about where the money was going. Each one was fired and never paid. Her tone hardens. You've stolen over $50,000 in services by waving the word charity like bait, convincing people to work discounted rates because they think they're helping children, then refusing to pay them as soon as they become suspicious of your scheme. Marcus Wellington speaks up, voice steadier now, fueled by anger. Your Honor, she told me my fee would be an investment in helping kids. She said I'd feel good knowing I was contributing to something bigger. That's why I agreed to her timeline. I worked 16-hour days for 2 weeks because I thought I was helping save children's lives. Judge Judy nods at him with a rare hint of respect. You were being exploited, Mr. Wellington. She manipulated your compassion. That's what predators do. She pulls out a stack of printed papers, social media screenshots. Let's talk about your Instagram account, Miss Thornbridge. Your Facebook. Your LinkedIn, where you list yourself as CEO and founder of a charity that does not exist. She holds up the first photo. Here, you're at Providence Children's Hospital, standing next to a young girl with no hair, clearly a cancer patient. Your caption reads, visiting the children my foundation supports. Their courage inspires everything I do. Judge Judy's eyes narrow. I called the hospital. You have no affiliation with them. You don't support a single child there. You walked into a public waiting area, positioned yourself next to a sick child, took a selfie, and left. You exploited a child with cancer for social media content. Rachel's voice is barely more than a whisper. I was just visiting. I wanted to show support. Judge Judy's disgust is unmistakable. You wanted to look supportive. There's a difference. She holds up the next screenshot. Here's another one. The next screenshot shows a photo of you at an elementary school with the caption, donating supplies to underprivileged students through my foundation's education initiative. I called the school. You brought exactly 1 box of crayons. 1 box. You handed it to the principal, had someone take your photo. And then you left. The teacher, visible in the background of that photo, told me she spent $300 of her own money on classroom supplies that same week, yet you're the one posing as the generous philanthropist. Judge Judy holds up another screenshot. This one shows Rachel grasping an oversized novelty check made out to Children's Medical Fund for $25,000. The caption reads, "Another successful fundraiser. Proud to present this donation to children in need." Judge Judy's voice is filled with contempt. This check was never deposited anywhere. It's a prop. These blank, oversized checks can be bought at party supply stores. You wrote in the amount yourself, took photos, posted them with hashtags about giving back and making a difference, and the money never existed. You fabricated an entire donation for social media content. Rachel tries for one final defense, her voice trembling. "Your Honor, maybe I got caught up in the image of charity work. Maybe I made mistakes with the proper procedures, but my heart was in the right place. I genuinely wanted to help." Judge Judy rises, her small frame somehow commanding the entire room. "Your heart was not in the right place, Miss Thornbridge. Your heart was focused entirely on yourself. Every single post is about you, not the cause, not the children. You, my foundation, my event, my donors, my sacrifice, my Philanthropist of the Year award that you gave yourself." She continues, her voice cutting through the courtroom. "Real humanitarians don't need credit. They work quietly. They spend their own money. They give their time without posting about it. You are not a philanthropist. You are a narcissist who found a socially acceptable way to feed your ego by pretending to care about suffering children." Rachel stands at the podium, mascara streaking as tears cut through the makeup that can no longer conceal who she really is. Judge Judy sits down again, her voice returning to a calm and measured tone, somehow more brutal than yelling. "Miss Thornbridge, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $15,000. You will pay Mr. Wellington every penny you owe him for services he performed in good faith while you lied to him about helping children. But we're not finished here. Not even close." Judge Judy picks up her phone, a deliberate, theatrical gesture. "I'm forwarding the complete record of this case to the State Attorney General's office. You solicited money from 47 people under explicitly false pretenses. You told them their money would go to cancer research. Instead, it went to premium catering and your ego. That is wire fraud, Miss Thornbridge," she continues, her tone sharp and unwavering. "You created fake charity credentials, fake board memberships, fake awards, and used them to solicit money and services. That is fraud. You've been running this scheme for 8 years across multiple events. This is not a mistake. This is a criminal pattern. The Attorney General can't decide whether you deserve prosecution, but I'm ensuring they receive every piece of evidence from this courtroom." Rachel's voice comes out strangled, pleading. "Your Honor, please, I can fix this. I can pay Mr. Wellington. I can take down the social media posts. I can stop using the foundation name." Judge Judy cuts her off with a single slicing gesture of her hand. "I'm also forwarding this case to the Internal Revenue Service. You've been writing off these charity event expenses on your tax returns, haven't you? Claiming business deductions for a foundation that doesn't legally exist. That is tax fraud. The IRS takes a very dim view of people who manipulate the tax code by pretending to run charities. They will audit every return you filed for the past 8 years, and I hope they uncover every fraudulent deduction." Her voice rises again, fueled by fresh anger. "Every legitimate charity whose name you've stolen, every organization you've falsely claimed to work with, I'm contacting all of them. They deserve to know you've been using their reputations without permission to legitimize your deception. The Children's Hope Foundation, whose badge you're wearing like a participation ribbon. They deserve to know you've been impersonating their board members. The Cancer Research Alliance, they deserve to know you've been falsely claiming to raise money in their name. Each one of these organizations works tirelessly to build donor trust, and you've been exploiting their credibility to feed your delusion that you matter. Judge Judy points at Rachel's phone on the table. I want every fraudulent social media post deleted. Every fake credential removed from LinkedIn. Every false claim about donations, events, and board memberships erased. You have 48 hours. If I find even one post still claiming you run a charity, if I see even one photo where you're exploiting sick children for your personal brand, I will make sure the Attorney General knows you're continuing your fraud even after being exposed. She continues, unwavering. And if you ever call yourself a philanthropist again, if you attend another charity event and try to take credit for work you didn't do, if you put on another costume and pretend to be something you're not, I will make it my personal mission to ensure everyone knows exactly what you are. Rachel is openly sobbing now, her hands covering her face. Judge Judy's voice softens only slightly, though the steel beneath it remains. Do you know what real charity workers do, Miss Thornbridge? They work 80-hour weeks for barely livable wages because they care more about the cause than themselves. They hold dying children's hands at 3 in the morning. They fight insurance companies and government bureaucracy. They beg corporations for donations and get rejected dozens of times before receiving a single yes. They go home exhausted, and to wake up the next morning to do it all over again because the children they serve are real, not props for Instagram photos. Her gaze is unwavering. And then people like you swoop in, spend 5 minutes taking a selfie, and claim credit for their life's work. You are not just a fraud, Miss Thornbridge. You are an insult to every real humanitarian on this planet who sacrifices everything for people they'll never meet and will never be thanked by. Judge Judy delivers the final ruling. $15,000 to Mr. Wellington, paid within 30 days, or I'll authorize wage garnishment. Court costs of $850. And Miss Thornbridge, you are banned from this courtroom. If you ever have another legal dispute, find another judge. I don't want to see your face again. Now get out. Rachel stumbles toward the exit, her trembling hands removing the charity pins from her lapel one by one. The sash comes off and crumples in her fist. The leather portfolio with the embossed foundation name hangs limply at her side. Bailiff Bird holds the door, his expression a mixture of disgust and satisfaction, as Rachel disappears through the doorway. The courtroom does not erupt in applause. The silence is heavier than cheering. People are too stunned, too disgusted by what they've just watched. An elderly woman in the front row shakes her head slowly. A young man in the back whispers to someone beside him, I can't believe people actually do this. Judge Judy turns to Marcus Wellington, who stands there with tears in his eyes. Mr. Wellington, you did nothing wrong. You asked the right questions. You trusted your instincts when something felt off. Never apologize for having integrity. Marcus nods, unable to speak. Within hours of the episode airing, news outlets across the country pick up the story. Fake philanthropist exposed on Judge Judy trends across social media. Real charity organizations release statements thanking Judge Judy for defending their reputations. 2 more victims come forward with similar stories about Rachel, including a photographer, who worked for free on one of her fake fundraisers within 3 days. The Attorney General's office opens a formal investigation. Rachel's carefully curated online persona disappears overnight. Her Instagram account with 30,000 followers vanishes. Her LinkedIn profile, where she called herself a CEO and philanthropist, is deleted. Her Facebook page, documenting 8 years of fabricated charity work, is erased. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots circulate everywhere. Reddit threads break down each fraudulent post. Local newspapers publish exposes about the woman who turned charity into a personal branding strategy. Her country club membership is quietly revoked. Friends stop returning her calls. The fantasy world she spent years constructing collapses entirely. Subscribe to Judge Stories if this reminded you that real charity doesn't need a photographer, doesn't need applause, and never demands recognition. Judge Judy showed that some lies are too outrageous to overlook, and that exploiting human. Compassion for personal gain is one of the most despicable frauds imaginable. Hit that like button if you believe fake philanthropists deserve to be exposed as publicly and thoroughly as Rachel Thornbridge was in this courtroom. This is what happens when performance masquerades as purpose. This is what happens when someone pretends for 8 years to care about dying children while caring only about herself. This is the story of Rachel Thornbridge, a reminder that in Judge Judy's courtroom, you can fake credentials and you can fake compassion, but you cannot fake character. And once the mask comes off, the entire world is watching. Leave a comment below, sharing whether you think Rachel should face criminal prosecution for charity fraud. And remember, the next time you see someone constantly posting about their charitable work, ask yourself one simple question. Are they doing good or just looking good? Because there's a difference. And Judge Judy knows exactly how to spot it.